Did you know that Magic Missile can deal up to 300 plus damage on the single cast if you know how to use it properly? Magic Missile is, for me, in my opinion, one of the best spell wizard have, and I'm gonna teach you why today. We're gonna cover three different topics. The first one, what is Magic Missile? How does the spell work? How do you increase the damage on Magic Missile? Then, I'm gonna teach you how to use it, how to counter people who have a shield, for example. And finally, we're gonna talk about when to use it so you get the maximum and the highest potential out of this spell. So Magic Missile is a spell that fires up to 10 homing missiles that each deal 11 magical damage. The 0.75 you see on the screen is the scaling, which means if you build one additional magical damage or one true magical damage, you won't get one bonus damage, but 0.75. But that's going to be on every single missile you cast. So if you do the math, if you build one true damage, you get 7.5 damage bonus. If you consider that you're not the enemy doesn't have magical resistance and you just do like flat more damage. And also, we're not gonna take into account like limb multipliers, like if you headshot or like go into the hand, because that's gonna be way too complex. Of course, when you cast Magic Missile, there's one thing you need to understand is you cannot move. As soon as you move, the spell is gonna stop. Also, sometimes people feel that with Magic Missile, the projectile is faster. That's misconception of like what you see, because basically when you have more cast speed, so more knowledge, every missile comes out of your hand faster. So the distance, the travel distance between every single missile is shorter, so you feel like it's faster. But in theory, it's not faster. Just the number of missiles is higher. So if you understood the first part, and you're good at math, you should know that the scaling on this spell is not 0.75, but 750%. Because for every true damage you build or additional you build, you get not 1 damage, but 7.5 damage. So if you understood that, you should know that to do more damage with this spell, you need to build true or additional. This is why on most of the wizard build, you're gonna see true magical or additional. You can get up to plus 8 true magical with a legendary choker and 9 with a unique one. But the most common build are going to have like 6 or 7 true magical with 1 on the hat, 1 cloak, 2 on each ring, so that's 4. Then like the choker, if it's a blue one, you get 6, and then 7 and 8 and 9. Don't really, of course, it's gonna scale also with your magic power, but magic power is multiplicative, so it's good for spells who have higher base damage. So we're not gonna focus on magic power for now. There's one other factor you need to take into account when doing the damage is the spellbook. Every spellbook that you increase in rarity, you get 1 more damage, and you can add that damage to every single missile. So if the missile does 10 and you have a purple spellbook, it's gonna be 16 for each missile. So you can do the math, and for like 10 of them, it's gonna be way more. Like here, for example, I'm using a white book against a white magic staff. On the first missile on the book, I do 16 because the magical damage is 3. And if I switch to the magic staff, that's 5 magical damage, I do 18. So I do 2 more damage per missile. So if you do the math on 10 missile, I'm gaining 20 damage compared to the spellbook. This is why clearing mobs with magic missile is really important if you use the staff and not the book, because if you use the staff you gain way more damage, and sometimes it's the difference between killing someone and not killing the mob. Now that you understood how the spell works and how you can do more damage, I'm gonna talk about one last thing before we move on how to use it. I'm gonna talk about the perk called Arcane Mastery. A lot of people don't understand how this perk works, but they think we take it for the damage, but that's wrong. We take it because it reduces the cast time of Arcane spells by a flat 0.5 second. Magic Missile has a casting time of 1.25. So if you take Arcane Mastery, Magic Missile will be casted on 0.75 second, which is equal to a haste or ignite. And on top of this, if you have cast speed, you can cast one missile every 0.5 second. And basically you have a machine gun that does like up to 300 damage every half a second, which is insane. This is why Arcane Mastery is mandatory, in my opinion, and also Invis. So you run Invis and Magic Missile. Magic Lock is also Arcane spell, but that doesn't really matter. And it also increases Arcane Shield damage if you have Arcane Mastery. But that's for another topic. So before we talk about how to use it, you guys need to understand how spell works in Dark and Darker. When you use a spell book, all the spells you cast are coming out of your right hand. And that's not only for Magic Missile, that's also for Fireball. That's why like sometimes people think they cast Fireball and they end up like fireballing themselves. If I fireball like this, I'm gonna fireball myself, even though my crosshair is not on me. It's because the spell is coming out of my right hand. So the spell spawn exactly here and try to move forward. And when it moves forward, it hit the wall and it explodes to my face. And this is exactly what you want to do when you use Missile. When someone pushes you, you don't want to do this, because you're not gonna hit his head. So in order to hit someone's head like 100% of the time, it's really easy. You just need to make sure the spell actually spawn into his head. So you want to drag your hand a bit like toward his face, basically. When the spell is being casted, you want to hand to be into his face, like this. I'm literally rubbing his head. And you need to think that this dummy is a bit like shorter than the usual like character player. So try to practice on mobs. The closest I could think of is like mummies, skeletons, and the goblin mage. They probably like the same height as most characters in the game, so you can practice on them. Like that guy, for example. If he's like this, you see my crosshair is not on top of him. My crosshair is like slightly higher than him to the left. And the closer they get to you, the higher and left you have to aim. That's just basic like 3D geometry. If you look at the first clip I put in this video, it's exactly what I'm trying to explain here. I drag my hand toward his face and I track his movement and try to predict where he's gonna go. And if you look in slow motion, you can see that most missiles are hitting head, not all of them, because this exercise is really complex. You need to understand exactly how far he is from you and how high and left you have to aim. But by practicing a lot, you can easily hit like half your spell into his head, which is more than enough to kill someone. Now let's talk about shield. Most shield in this game, I mean all of the shield in this game can block magic missile. So if the projectile goes directly on the shield and they're blocking, they're not gonna take any damage. It used to be different, but I think the changes were healthy and good for the game. They can also block your hand by putting the shield on top of your hand. By doing this, it's going to do the same animation as like when you cast and your elbow hit the wall. So you basically like stun for like half a second. To avoid this, there's a really simple trick to beat fighters and like other class who have a shield. The way you need to do this is first, you bait them by aiming to the head. They're gonna try to block the head to protect themselves, and as soon as they do it, you can predict and aim for the legs and the feet. Sometimes people are really good. They look down and block your hand anyway. But as soon as they do this, you can easily jump back and cast another one and create more space. Exactly like I do in this clip. It might look really easy, but it's not. So you need a lot of practice to do this consistently and not get all in by any class that rush on you. So I hope you understood most of what I've said so far. If you got any question, you can ask me in the comments. And now we're gonna talk about the last part, like when to use it. When to use Magic Missile is really simple. You're looking for doorways, small corridors, and tunnels. That's where it's really hard for them to actually dodge your spells. The best are obviously doorways because they can't actually move. You don't want to use it too offensively, it's mostly a defensive spells. So in most scenario, the first thing you want to do is cast Fireball and Zap, and as soon as they get into melee range, you can pull out the missile and do everything I've told you so far. In 90% of the case, it's gonna work. One thing you need to be aware of is Warlock and Cleric. Cleric have a perk that reduce every incoming damage by 2. Which means every single missile that hits them is reduced by 2. Every single missile. So you can lose a lot of damage if you don't pay attention and you actually greed for the kill. The perk is called Perseverance. Reduce all type of incoming damage by 2. And so they really tanky to missile. Usually you'll need at least like 2 or 3 before killing one guy. Same for Warlock. They have really high magical resistance. And sometimes they run shield. So don't try to all-in-one Warlock before like zapping him twice, let's say. Same for Barbarian. Make sure you zap him at least once or twice before going for the all-in, because most of the time you're gonna lose if you don't like damage him a bit before you do it. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys learned something today. And if you got any question, you can ask me in the comments. And I hope to see more wizards use this spell better in to hit highest potential, because I still see a lot of wizards aim for the legs or aim for the chest when they're fighting someone who doesn't even have a shield. So see you guys in the next video, and thank you again.